Slimly, ego, Slimly, ego, Slimly, ego, Slimly, hey. You already know what's up. What's that? Another home run. But you know the job ain't done till we hold that trophy up. Hey.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome, episode 607, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. The Padres, they get swept by the New York Mets. I mean, so much for the Oakland A's series sweep, huh? 3 steps forward and then 3 steps back. I mean, these last 6 games, isn't this who this Padres team is? That's what they've shown who they are. This is just, there's good, there's bad, and overall, what are you at? You're around a 500 team. And after today, where they get down by a lot, then they make a comeback and it's a 1-run game, then a bad inning, and now you look at the score and it ends up not being very close, 11-6. Padres, they're 37 and 38. And coming out of this series, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. Sometimes if a team gets swept, it's like, well, they were just dominated the whole series and there's not even like interesting things to talk about that happened in the series, but I find myself interested in a lot of things that happened in this series. Now, I'll admit some of these games were not very fun to watch. It was pretty boring because the Padres offense didn't do a whole lot, but there's definitely things to talk about. Joe Musgrove, there's an update there. Manny Machado continues to struggle. Did have an RBI today, gets thrown out of the game. Mike Schilt gets ejected as well. It seemed like today Manny wanted to get thrown out of this game today. So a lot to talk about. If you want to join the show, click that link pinned up at the top of the chat. I will get to the comments, the super chats, the questions, as always, after I get through what happened in this series. Let's start with today's game. Padres lose 11-6. Dylan Cease, man, he has struggled to prevent the other team from hitting the ball out of the yard. His location, mainly, that's what I saw today, was the problem. Just fastballs down the middle. He threw a lot of fastballs right out of the get-go. I counted that, and it was like 12 of his first 16 or something around that, were fastballs. And he'd go 3, 4 straight fastballs in a row in a count before throwing a couple of sliders. And so the Mets, I feel like they were in a position there, especially in that first inning, to be sitting on that pitch, knowing what was going to be coming. And Dylan Cease doesn't even make it through 4 innings today, 7 earned runs, 3 walks. So free passes, gave up a couple home runs as well. The first home run that he allowed, which was Lindor, right off the bat, not a great location. But even what was even worse was the Pete Alonso one, which made it 4-1. Right, it was great. Manny comes through with the RBI, and it's like, cool. Dylan Cease on the mound. Maybe he's gonna have a great Dylan Cease outing. Padres, they have a lead here. Hopefully, they can add on, and the Padres, they won't get swept here. But nope. In that first inning, gives up the homer to Lindor, and just like that, boom, that first run doesn't matter there in that first inning. And then, I mean, you could not put a ball on a tee better than what Dylan Cease threw, that pitch he threw to Pete Alonso, that Alonso hit his 15th home run of the year on, right down the middle. Just location. And then when he wasn't throwing strikes, sometimes he just wasn't able to find the strike zone enough with some of these pitches in this game today. And so, yeah, it's a little bit concerning from Dylan Cease. I mean, he was off to a really good start on the year. And then I think John Schaefer tweeted out, I want to see, I'll pull it up. His first group of outings, I'm trying to see exactly what the number was here. Here it is. Dylan Cease's first 8 starts, he allowed 2 home runs. Dylan Cease's last 7 starts, including today, 9 home runs allowed. So it's almost like, you know how Michael King got into that issue more at the beginning of the year? Now that has transferred over to Dylan Cease. And you look at the state of this rotation right now, Dylan Cease is not pitching like the Dylan Cease that the Padres thought they were going to get. I'm not saying he can't get back to that, because we've seen him pitch like really good in a Padres uniform. Just saying the state of the rotation right now is that Cease is not pitching like that ace. The ace of the rotation right now is Matt Waldron. That's how I see it. Michael King, he's been pitching pretty well. And then who else we go? Adam Major, inconsistency. He's got to throw more strikes. Randy Vasquez, we're obviously not going to be putting him as the ace of this rotation. So, yeah, with no Darvish, with no Musgrove, there's a Musgrove update I'll get to, by the way. This rotation, it's hoping that you're going to get those good starts from this rotation. That's where I'm at right now. I'm not as confident in this rotation as I was earlier in the season. But, that could change. We know this Padres team, they, swept by the Rockies, swept by the Mets, but then they'll go play good baseball against teams like the Dodgers, the Braves. I wouldn't be surprised if they win this series against the Phillies, to be honest. I know some fans would be like, no, I'd be really surprised, Ben, if they win this series the way that they're playing. And the Phillies, they're getting Trey Turner back, but this is just who this Padres team is. They're up and down, and a team, let's say a fan that, just a casual fan that's not watching this team, they're going to sit there and be like, oh, Padres, Phillies easily. Padres, Rockies, oh, Padres easily. But the opposite happens. But Padres fans that are watching this team day in, day out, I don't know how surprised they're going to be. I'm not super surprised by some of these losses that the Padres have, by some of the wins that the Padres have had, series wins that the Padres have had so far this year. But getting back to today, Dylan Cease, obviously not good enough. I'm sure he is super pissed off at himself at what is happening right now because he knows that he's not pitching up or anywhere near right now, especially today, the level of expectation that he has on himself, the level of expectation the Padres have for Dylan Cease. Credit to Matsui and Kolek, though, combining for 3 1/3 innings, shutout, striking out 3, not walking anyone. But then Estrada, since he got sick, these last, couple of outings, he has not been doing so great. The ball's been getting hit hard off of him. Luis Torrens even hit a home run, which, shocker, former Padre hitting a home run off the Padres. A former Padre, I think we got to add in a former Padre that didn't have this memorable tenure with the Padres, hitting a home run off the Padres. Not super surprising there. Maybe surprising off the guy that he hit it off of. And it was disappointing, not just because it's Estrada, but because the Padres did get back into that game. And partly, let's not all give the Padres credit for them getting back into the game. We got to be honest here, and Jake Diekman was on the mound for the Mets. If this was a closer game, would the Mets have allowed Jake Diekman to go as far as they allowed him to go out of the bullpen when it was clear that he did not have it? He got 1 out. He gave up 3 runs. He walked 2 guys. Just clearly didn't have it. But the Padres, they capitalized on it, and they got to put together a rally. But at the end of here, I'll go through the rally first. Let's see. Was that the 7th inning? I want to say it was the 7th inning. No, 8th inning. 8th inning. I thought Diekman was hurt because he was kind of shaking his arm and taking some time around the mound. But this was when Hauser was on the mound. Profar singles. Then there's a fielder's choice. So that was the first batter that Diekman faced. And Profar's on third. There was a throwing error. That's right. Throwing error by Diekman. So now I believe there was second and third in that situation. Solano walks, Crony was on first. Walk. Now there's bases loaded. Merrill walked with the bases loaded. I'm not going to not give credit to Merrill for that because that was a good at-bat. And that was a pitch that could have been called a strike based on some previous pitches when Manny was thrown out of the game, right? That call. Didn't swing. He fouled some pitches off, I believe, earlier in that at-bat. So I will give some credit there to Jackson. Makes it 7-3. Peralta, ground ball, force out. Then it's 7-4. Then Drew Smith comes in after Diekman. Kim with the double. Makes it 7-5. Campy sack fly, 7-6. Now that's where I'm going to stop because that's where some of the conversation in hindsight happened. Because after the sack fly, run scores, Arise singles, Kim doesn't get sent by Tim Leeper, the third base coach. He started on second, came running around. Marte makes a great throw. It was right on the target, and maybe he would have been thrown out, probably would have been thrown out, although one of the angles that the Padres showed, after, not the actual play, but after seeing Kim round the bases, he stops. Like, he got a really good secondary lead, I thought. Read it well around the bag. I don't think this was Profar. I think it would have been a little bit closer than Profar, to be honest. Kim has wheels. I think Kim's faster than Profar as well. And it seemed like I didn't see the ball come into the shot until Kim probably would have been almost at the plate. I don't think he would have been out by 30 feet. Like, I think John Schaefer quote tweeted my tweet when I asked if Kim should have been sent in that situation. Before I get to that, let's get to the Campy sack fly, because that happened before that. Should Kim have been tagging there? Yes. When I look back on it, yes. But I think, and I obviously never got Kim's vantage point, him standing on second, or, from between second and third in that spot. He probably saw Bader and how Bader, because if you look at that play again, Bader was kind of doing the stutter step to like get ready to catch and make a good throw, and he totally misread where that ball was going. So maybe Kim was reading Bader's feet and just his body language before he ended up having to jump on that liner, and seeing how bad of a read it was by Bader. And then Kim, he was never trying to tag. That was if you see the camera angle, he was getting off more once that ball was hit. He thought that ball was probably hit deeper than it was, or he thought Bader was more shallow. I don't know. He didn't tag. Looking in hindsight, obviously, yeah, he should have tagged, should have gotten to third. He would have gotten to third because Bader got turned around and he was not in a great position to go throw that ball to third base. Run scores there. And so let's say Kim tagged, obviously, and that single would have scored Kim. Instead of having Tatis come up at the plate, Leaper didn't send Kim, so Kim's at third still, and then Tatis strikes out. And Tatis, by the way, terrible game from him, strikes out 4 times today. That can't happen. You got to be able to put the ball in play, especially in that situation there. But yeah, 4 strikeouts, bad game from him. But in terms of, let's talk about the send or the no send from Leaper, because obviously there was the Angels game where a Profar gets sent, he gets thrown out. I was fine with that because I was like, hey, make the Angels make a play. And at the very time that Kim didn't get sent, I was audibly saying this, to the TV, send him. What if he gets thrown out? He gets thrown out. You got to send him there. I thought in the moment you got to send him, but looking at different camera angles afterwards and kind of cooling down, it's like, okay, yeah, he would have been thrown out. But again, that's also in hindsight as well, because when you make the decision to send a runner, you don't know that Starling Marte is going to throw it right on line. And I know Tatis is on deck, but I don't know if Tim Leaper is taking that into consideration in the middle of the play. Maybe like you're anticipating it in his head. He's like, okay, Tatis is on deck. If there's a ball hit to the outfield, what am I going to do here? But in the middle of the play, are you thinking Tatis is on deck, or are you just reading the throw, where Marte is, where Kim is? Sitting there, I would have gotten Kim thrown out because I was saying send him. Because I'm like, make Marte make the throw. Make him throw Ha-Seong Kim out. Because it's not a guarantee that Tatis was going to come up and get a hit. There's 2 outs in the situation. Just send him. See what happens. It's not Profar that's running. Kim is faster than Profar. It's not Tatis that's running, but it's not Manny. It's not Profar. So, again, in the moment, I was like, send him. Let's go. It wouldn't have mattered. Looking back in hindsight, yeah, you send him as well because Tatis struck out anyway. So I would have rather, again, had the catcher make the tag, have Marte make the right throw, or make the good throw, excuse me. There was no decision on where to throw it, obviously. Make the good throw. But at the end of the day, again, there's a couple reasons why it didn't matter. Like Tatis he strikes out, and Estrada ends up giving up a bunch of runs anyway the very next half inning. So bottom line, the Padres, they did not play well enough in this series. They score 1 run in game 1. They score 1 run in game 2. Yeah, they scored 6 runs here, but they really got blown out a couple of times. They got blown out through 4 innings. They were down 7-0, 7-1 through 5, 7-1 through 7. Then it was close. Then it was 11-6 to end it. So it's not like they deserve to win any of these games. They should have been better offensively. They should have been better pitching in some spots as well. Like, no doubt about that. John, I will get to you if you have like 5 minutes. I'm going to get to games 1 and 2 for. Okay, good. I'm going to get to games 1 and games 2 here first. I already did post games reaction to these first 2 games. So you can watch that if you want more of a detailed post game reaction. But I know there's a lot of fans that are passionate about what just happened today, what happened in this series. So I do want to get to that. But game 2, Padres lose 5-1. Adam Major started this game, 3 2/3 innings from him, gave up a couple runs, which it was, I mean, kind of mind blowing. He walked 6 guys and he only gave up 2 earned runs. It was the JD Martinez show. I give credit to JD. I mean, it's not like those pitches were right down the middle. He has so much opposite field power. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Some of those pitch locations, like, just props to JD there. But who I'm not really going to give too many props to is Jose Quintana. Is it Quintana or Quintana? Because Don was driving me nuts saying Quintana. Because before yesterday, when Don was saying that, all I've ever heard his name pronounced is Quintana, Jose Quintana. But Don was saying Quintana, so I don't really know there. Anyway, yeah, 6 innings, 1 run, but the Padres made Quintana and Mania look like Cy Youngs, and that's unacceptable. The Padres, they went 0 for with runners in scoring position, and the problem was it's not like they went 0 for 10, which would have been an issue as well, but they didn't get very many opportunities. They got 2 hits in the entire game. Merrill had a homer, which is great. Seeing him hit and seeing some accidental power. What did he label it as? Like uh, a cool accident, an amazing accident, something like that. I forget the exact wording, but he's not trying to hit home runs. Great approach. Love what I'm seeing from Merrill. But just offensively overall, another 0 for day from Manny, and we'll obviously get into the Manny discussion, no doubt about that. 0 for there. In game 1, by the way, Manny went 0 for. His OPS today, after today's game, he went 1 for 3 today. His OPS is still 667. He has an average of 245. Yesterday, I didn't look today from this starting lineup, but yesterday's starting lineup, OPS is ranked. And I put that tweet out yesterday. He's 8th in yesterday's lineup in OPS. 8th. The only one worse was Kyle Higashioka. Like, that's how bad it's been. And you cannot say to me that Manny is playing healthy, 100% healthy. I was surprised that he was out there at third base. I was probably just as surprised as all of you when he was out there yesterday, because game 1, he's jogging down the line. It doesn't look like he's very healthy, or else I hope he would have, knowing the situation, he would have ran a little bit harder. I'm not saying he has to sprint, but run a little bit harder than he did. Obviously, it's the bad luck blowing the bubble. I'm not going to freak out about that because he just does that. It's just something that I don't think he thinks about when he's playing. He does that everywhere on the field, really. In the middle of that bat, while he's making a play, while he's making a catch, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, not Padres fans are not happy with Manny, and that is definitely understandable. And is there anything I wanted to hit on in game 2 here? Again, it was just JD Martinez, really impressive. The Padres didn't have great at bats. There was balls rolled over, just not great swings, not great, I would say, pitch selection. And then game 1, it's kind of like game 2 and game 1, where they seemed pretty alike. Merrill had homers. JD Martinez came through for the Mets. Now, Matt Waldron pitched well, 7 innings, 2 earned runs. He is the ace of this Padres staff right now, I think. He did his job. Morhone was the only reliever that had to pitch. Another series where Robert Suarez doesn't have to even pitch, which sucks. It's one thing if the Padres are blowing out everyone and they're saying, yeah, don't pitch. But when you get swept, obviously, that's not great. You want to see Suarez out there. 0 for 5 in game 1 of this series with runners in scoring position. Arise, I think that was game 1, right? Arise, he would have been in scoring position as the game tying run, but he ends up going past the bag. So there was that. It was a rainy day. I don't know if I should be blaming it on the rain or just Arise. Why Why are we? I don't understand the head first slide, the head first dive, unless you're diving back into a bag. I don't understand going head first. Why can't we slide into second, into third, into home? Maybe this sounds like an old man thing, but whatever. Why can't we be sliding into bases? I see injuries happen when guys go head first. Injuries could happen when you slide, but I see less injuries when you slide into bases. I think you come off of bases a lot less. Arise hurt himself earlier this year in Kansas City, right? Going head first with the shoulder. I think it was the shoulder. So I don't understand that. But Kim with some bad base running stuff, getting picked off. I think that was today. Just some things that should not have happened. Just play better baseball, sound baseball, fundamental baseball. I don't think Schilt can sit there and say that, no, we played good baseball this series. No, you didn't. You didn't. You got to be better offensively. Some of the pitching has to be better, especially like Dylan Cease with location. Got to hit your spots. And I don't want to say that some guys have to want it more because I'm not in that clubhouse. I would not want that being said about me if I'm trying and I'm just in a bad spot offensively right now and I'm just in a funk. Sometimes you want it too much. Like we saw that with Crony last year. So I don't want to go that far, but I guess I would just say better at bats. Swing it, don't swing at some of the pitches that the Padres swung at in this series. That's kind of what I come away with in this series. I'll get to the Manny ejection, but I do want to bring John on here. I know he's been waiting. What's up, John?
Oh man, I'm doing all right. How are you doing, man? Guys, a lot of talking, man. A lot to talk about during this series. Honestly, take a sip of water. Happy Father's Day. Relax.
You too.
Oh man, it is. It is. I think we gotta, as a fan base, we gotta collectively understand where we are, who we are as a team. Honestly, and I think that's what leading to a lot of frustration. I know, believe me, I think I share the same frustrations that a lot of Padres fans feel. But I think for me, I've kind of accepted that we're not the Phillies, we're not the Braves. I know we have this talented team, but what has been shown is that we just can't seem to get over 500. It's very reminiscent of 2023. We were talking about when are we going to get over 500? When are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? The way the rest of the NL is playing, it seems to me that this is going to be the most of the season, I guess, so far. You know what I mean? Where all these teams are kind of struggling to get over 500, and Padres are going to be in the mix of this, and that's the unfortunate part about it. And I think at this point, the quicker we accept that this is our identity, that we're going to sweep one of the worst teams in baseball, then get swept by a under 500 team multiple times throughout the season. That just is what it is. And I think, like you said, I would not be surprised if we win the series against the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies, they're going to I think they lost the series against the Orioles. And it's just like one of those things where the quicker we accept our identity as a team of, slightly above, slightly below 500, I think it could make it a little bit easier for us Padre fans watching this.
Yeah. And then when you say that, we got swept by an under 500 team, but we got to remember, like, that's who the Padres are too. It's not like we're 10 games over. I feel like, and I get caught in this too. We have this expectation. We're like, no, we can't get swept by an under 500 team because we have these expectations. We treat
at least win a series. At least win a series. Come on.
Win a game. I feel like our team is 10 games over 500 talent-wise sometimes, or at least in our heads. Like,
yes,
we can't be getting swept. We're playing an under 500 team, but we got to remember we're in that same group as they are too. Like, we have more talent than the Mets. I think so. We have more talent than the A's, obviously. We have more talent than there's a lot of teams, I think, that we have more talent than. But record at the end of the day is what matters the most. And our record is around the same as a lot of teams in baseball that we would say, oh, can't get swept by this team. Well, we're around that same area. I know the Padres It's 1 game under 500 right now. D-backs are 3 games under. Giants are 3 games under. That's around the same area. The Nationals are 1 game under. The Mets are 4 games under. That's not very far off from the Padres. The Reds are 3 games under. The Cardinals are at 500. The Cubs
Yeah.
are 4 games under. The Pirates are 4 games under. Again, those are not that far off, and there's plenty of those teams that I just listed off that we would say, yeah, Padres, they're more talented than them. But that's just how this season is, and obviously,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing it like to bash on you or anything, but like this Padres season, I feel like is, and hopefully it ends in a postseason appearance. All we care about, at least for me, get into the postseason, then see what happens. We're not going to win the NL West. We just get frustrated with what happens at that point in time. That day's game, this series, the last week, whatever. And when they don't meet the expectations of us in our heads for that week, we get pissed off. But it's like, let's go look at who this team is, overall, their record, the trends. They haven't gone on like a 5-game winning streak or anything like that. Like, that's
Yeah.
just who this, I think they have 1 4-game winning streak. That's
Yeah.
who this team is.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that the National League is mediocre at best. There's a few teams that are above the pack, but then there's everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's who we are. And hopefully it's like 2022 where there's some additions made before the deadline and they're playing good baseball come the end of the season and they're hot going in, because that's what matters the most. I have this team being a postseason team. I'm not saying that fans shouldn't be pissed off right now. I just think that sometimes we have higher expectations than what they deserve, just based on the record overall. Maybe I don't know if I'm saying that right, but yeah.
No, I think, I mean, believe me, when you have the likes of Fernando Tatis, Sander Bogarts, and Manny Machado coming into the season, you think at least one of them is going to get hot enough to somewhat carry the team. No one in their right mind ever thought that Jurickson Profar was going to be the leader of this team. And, that and let alone get a Luis Arraez and all that stuff. You know what I mean? We kind of came with the expectation of just get the wild card, and here we are, right? Now we're right in second place in the division. That's great. That's awesome. And it is also encouraging that the Dodgers, quite frankly, haven't run away with this thing quite yet. I mean, it seems that, again, the entire National League is just very mediocre at the best, but I mean, I think there is a silver lining to all of this. Believe me, and let me preface this. I'm pissed off that the Padres gave up another, got swept by the Mets.
Yeah.
Believe me, it's ridiculous how they even had that kind of offensive output those 3 games. It was absolutely ridiculous, given the fact that Waldron pitched a gem and Mazur just kind of kept us in this, and Dylan Cease unfortunately just blew it up, unfortunately, early on in the game. But the silver lining is that we have beat the teams that are kind of in this wild card hunt. You know what I mean? We beat the Reds, we beat the Chicago Cubs, and it puts us in a good position later down the line. And I know these series suck when you get swept by a under 500 team, but at the end of the day, it's really what record you face off against the people you're competing with for a wild card spot. Now, that being said, I mean, it is a precarious situation, the entire wild card standings right now, because all it really takes is one team to get hot at the right, one team to just get hot and maintain that lead. And then pretty soon those 2 wild card spots are now down to 1. And that's where it becomes, I think, very, very, I think that's why a lot of people have anxiety about this Padres team, is because, again, we're teetering over this, under 500, over 500. We kind of want to separate ourselves a little bit, just so that if we do get swept by a really bad team, then it's not the biggest deal in the world. But this is at the end of the day, it can't get too frustrated, because it's like, well, this Padres team has always been predictable, and we can't. I don't know. It is what it is. But these series hurt. First and foremost, I know I'm very frustrated by the Padres team for doing this, and I'm frustrated at Manny, which it sucks, but I don't like it when people bash on Manny. I think like he's not trying hard enough or whatever, and I think a lot of these guys are always injured. Quite frankly, they're never 100%. I think Manny's expressed that in the past. it just sucks. It just sucks where we're at right now. And if we won one game today, that'd have been great. And then we wouldn't be so pissy and moany today, I guess.
Yeah, and well, with Manny, it was a bad look when he was jogging down the
Oh
line, blowing the bubble, and then he's playing third base the next day. Like,
yeah,
and I said this already, but like, it would have been one thing if he's just going to DH for another week, and we could say, well, yeah, he's definitely not healthy. He's not. He's fighting out there. I'm not saying he's not, but to be in the not
field.
yeah in the field the next day and today before he got tossed, to be in the field, it's like, shouldn't you be running a little bit harder in a 1-run game on a ball? Now, I did see him just running down the line. He didn't peek to see if there was an error, but I mean, it's just a bad look. And there's been a
Yeah,
ton of those. But does Manny care about that? I don't think so. I think
no,
he cares, like, I hit a ground ball to third, I'm out. So,
that's
and
that.
I'm playing hurt. I need to be in the lineup. I'm not gonna run harder than what I just did. Um,
Yeah,
and I rolled over. Maybe that's what he thinks. Like, I rolled over, I deserve to be out. I don't know. But it's frustrating seeing that, especially again when he's in at third base the next day and the next day. But let's just go past that. His and OPS is not everything, but the OPS, it's bad. It is alarming. Some
believe
of,
me.
I mean, Kevin Acee in the Padres Daily today had that whole graph. So this is
About the
Manny
difference.
on how he's fared on pitches in the center of the strike zone. For anyone that missed this, in 2024, he's hitting 308. This was going into today. He had some pitches right down the middle, by the way, today. 2023, he was hitting 333. 2020 to 2022, 394. So it's gone down every year. He's taking 26.5% of those pitches right down the middle. In
Yeah,
2023, he was taking 22.1. From 2020 to 2022, taking 11.5. So he's gotten less aggressive on those pitches. It's almost like, I don't know if all those are at the beginning of the count and they know that Manny's just taking, even though actually I think Manny's actually pretty aggressive on, or maybe that's Tatis. That's really aggressive on those first pitches. But there was one today where one was right down the middle. I think it was first or second at bat, and he swings right through it. Just
yeah,
And then there's some times where, okay, maybe you have to protect, but it's still not great pitches that he's swinging at, and it's just a weak rollover to third base. And I don't know what else to say other than this is not who the Padres paid for.
no,
And I definitely understand those fans that are more pissed off than I am about it, at least on social media. And I know social media is not reality all the time.
of
And
course.
there's a
More than
bunch of
what's measured
fans that have
takes.
there's a there's a bunch of fans out there that have said things about Manny these last few days that they would not say to his face.
Oh
Um,
no,
yeah,
no, and
yeah. So
Manny wouldn't care, quite
yeah,
frankly.
exactly. Yeah, that's why, like, for players, don't look at social media.
No,
Um,
no, no.
it's
It
just for
sucks.
pissed off fans to go vent sometimes.
Believe me. I mean, there's definitely some days where you think obviously this guy's getting paid $30 million a year, and obviously he should be hustling a little bit more, or going for a diving play, or getting that big home run or that clutch hit or whatever. I get that, but that's baseball at the end of the day. He's never gonna. He's obviously he's gonna get more chances, or I guess if there was a bases loaded, 2 outs, and those kind of situations, I would want Manny in those kind of situations. That's unfortunate. That's the bed we've made as a fan base. We decided to pay him, and it is frustrating. Believe me, it's frustrating, especially because we know that when this team, or when Manny gets hot, this team gets hot. He's a leader, and it's unfortunate that we are a little bit leaderless right now. Where Joe Musgrove isn't in the game every single every fifth day, and Manny is not in this as well, and it's a bummer, because at the end of the day we need these guys to produce, because quite frankly the bottom of the order has been kind of carrying this team for a little bit, and even the back of the rotation. I mean, Matt Waldron, for gosh sake, is literally an ace, and I would consider in the All-Star discussion, which is crazy,
Yeah,
crazy to even think about that. Again, if you this is why this sport is crazy, is that these people can just come out of nowhere and be something. But Maybe that's delusional. Maybe I'm a delusional Padre fan, but maybe I have hope and a chance and a prayer that they'll go on a 5-game winning streak or whatever, and they'll get slightly over 500, enough to be comfortable if we get swept again, which, given this team, who knows? It might just happen.
To go back to the Manny thing, I saw this over the weekend, or maybe it was Friday. This was a tweet I saw. Will Holder, by the way, tweeted this. Great Twitter follow. He is, by the way. And this was from Ava. Says, look, I get Manny was great. I have his jersey, but what he's done the last year and a half is unacceptable. Never mind the fact he came into the 2023 season demanding a new contract instead of focusing on a World Series run, crying about the cost of eggs or some mess. Kind of had it, to be honest. And like people that have that point of view, I'm not going to sit here and be arguing with you. I mean,
no,
a lot of Padres fans, right? Manny and Padres players, especially the stars that we know are going to be here a long time. Maybe some don't view it this way, but I view it this way. It's like a member of your family because of how much time you spend watching this person and you care so much about this team. And there's family members that we get pissed off with sometimes and we're just tired of. But that's not because we hate them. It's because like we want the best out of them. We want the situation to be the best.
Yeah.
And what some fans are complaining about, what he's done the last year and a half, performance-wise, on the field, is unacceptable with the amount of money that he is being given by this Padres team and just the role that he has on this roster. He knows he's the captain. He knows he's one of the stars of this team. Yes. He knows in 2022 he should have won MVP, and he was huge in why the Padres got to the NLCS. And he knows he's going to have to be huge probably for the Padres to go anywhere in the postseason. And then 2023, demanding a new contract instead of focusing on a World Series run. I will debate that because, like, if you're in that position and you're Manny, you probably want to get the long-term security. You know Peter Seidler loves you. I understand what Manny was doing there. But at the same time, I understand fans that are going to be pissed off at that as well, looking back on it, because Peter Seidler, that was his last year. And some might look at it as, oh, Manny took advantage of a guy that was dying. Now, we don't know what the circumstance was for Peter at that point in time, right? So that's why I would disagree with that. But again, like there's some fans that they're just pissed off with it, and they can easily make an argument or make their argument on why it's valid to be so pissed off at Manny for these last couple of years. That's what I would say. And maybe some would be like, well, don't go publicly with that, saying that you're going to opt out. I'm saying before 2023, you're going to opt out at the end of the year. Maybe don't do that because then now there's all the attention. It's public. Maybe you should have went about it a different way. But it's like Manny's trying to get his money. And if he feels like that's the way to do it is to put it out there publicly, and he knows that someone's going to react to that, then okay, props to Manny for doing that. And all those fans, by the way, all those fans that are sitting here bashing Manny, and I understand, I'm frustrated with it as well. But all of those that are bashing Manny, you guys were the ones that wanted Manny long-term and were happy that when he got that contract as well, because you knew that Manny Machado, who was coming off of the almost MVP, should have won MVP in 2022, he was going to be a Padre for life. You were stoked about it. And some are going to say, no, I wasn't, Ben. Well, okay, maybe, and you're the vocal minority. But I know the majority of people were excited as heck when Manny got that contract on, I think, that Sunday before a day game in spring training. I think that's the day it was because I remember what happened. Everyone was super pumped up about that. That's all I'm saying. It's easy to react about things because it's sports. We react about things,
Yeah. I would argue the same. They had the same feeling when Xander Bogaerts got signed, That
I would say Manny, I would say with the Bogaerts thing, I would say less people would be excited about that than the Manny one. Because
I understand.
But yeah, people were, I was excited about the Bogaerts stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe me. I think we're all excited, which is why I don't tend to agree with the bashing of, was it, that Bogaerts is similar to Hosmer or whatever like that. I just don't buy that argument in one bit because, we got him. That's unfortunate. It is what it is. We have him, and he hasn't played to his best of his ability, but again, we got him, and he's a good hitter, and that's that. He has a proven track record of that. And again, hindsight's 2020. Manny, you go through, I think a lot of these guys go through, years of being under arbitration and under team control and stuff like that, that when they finally do have their opportunity to, get their bag, they're definitely going to, use every leverage and of any possibility that they can in order to squeeze out as much money as they possibly can. I mean, Jackson Merrill, when he's done with arbitration, he's going to do the same exact thing. You know what? Fans are going to be a little pissed off that, oh, why would our homegrown guy, you know what I mean, do such a thing on a public stage? He's like, well, because he wants his bag. Why else? These guys are trying to get paid. It's a job. I get it. Come on. It is what it is. And, Manny, we all want 2022 Manny. There's no doubt about that. And he has not lived up to the expectations that we want him to be, But the thing is that the second he starts raking, like he said last year, I hate to say it, but, once he starts raking, everyone's going to fall in line. You know what I mean? I think I just saw a meme today that's, it was like terrible Padre memes or something like that. It's like, we get a few games over to 500. Oh my God, this team's hot. And then we get swept. And then we're like, oh, this team sucks. And then this cycle continues, guys. This is the team. And the quicker we understand that as a fan base, less frustrated we can get about this team. We could just be like, meh, this is expected. It is what it is. So yeah, it's a dumb sport anyway.
Yeah, I think you said it well. Yeah, right there about, once we just realize what this team is, we can get disappointed and pissed off.
It sucks. I know. Yeah, it sucks.
No, but I'm saying we can do that in the postseason, like react to every little moment. But it's a long baseball season. Yeah. And I know we're really passionate Padres fans and we're going to react to every game. But I think this team has shown who they are. Yeah. They could surprise us and be 10 games, 20,
yeah,
not 20, but
get that Mike Shiro magic and 20-game win streak, point, yeah.
But
you don't know
until they prove that, they're an around 500 team, and
that's it.
That's just what it is. Yeah. All right, John. Thanks, man.
Have a good one. Happy Father's Day.
You too. Thanks, man. All right. I want to give everyone a Joe Musgrove update before I get to the chat. Kevin Acee in Padres Daily, his newsletter. This is the update. Joe Musgrove, he stood on a mound yesterday for the first time since going on the IL 2 weeks earlier with inflammation in his right elbow. He did not throw on the mound yesterday. He spent almost a half hour doing flexibility exercises and working to retrain his body as he attempts to slightly alter his delivery in order to take some stress off his arm. So when I see that, and I posted this, and a lot of Padres fans were like, all right, just have the surgery now, Joe. And I'm here to tell you that's not happening. It's Joe Musgrove. He's trying to win, and he thinks that he can help this team win. And it's June 16th. You want to have surgery and give up on the season? That's not who Joe Musgrove is. It's not going to happen. It's one thing if it was September 16th. It's June 16th. And so he is going to try to get back on that mound. It's as simple as that. He's not going to want to sit out when this is another year of his prime gone. Darvish isn't getting younger. King's under contract for this year, next year, same thing with Arise, Dylan Cease. Not, Manny's in his prime. Tatis, obviously. They're not going to sit out and just go get surgery so he doesn't have to sit out longer for next year. If he has to sit out at some point next year, at the beginning of next year, then that's what's going to happen. I would rather have someone try. Don't go get the surgery right now on June 16th. Go try. So here's the rest of this update. But I just wanted to get that out there because there's a lot of people on social media that are saying, go get the surgery, or here comes the surgery. I would just say, hey, let's wait a little bit on that. But altering his delivery, some also were like, well, that's just going to lead to more injuries. But I don't know the exact specifics on it. He did mention about how his release is tight, I think. He said here, it's about the slider. His new slider is part of the problem and is considering how to alter either the grip or wrist action. But he has also always had a very high-stress finish. One of the things he is working on is how to alter that finish. It has to do with his front left hip and how he is landing so that he cannot have his arm absorb so much of that final portion of his delivery. So again, I don't know exactly what's happening here. New slider, okay. High stress finish. Alter the finish. Front left hip. But it's one of those things for me, like, I want to see what the adjustment is visually, like actually see it, then try to picture it in my mind before I go judging, oh, this is just going to lead to hip injury or lead to other injuries, or, oh, this is just going to increase the odds for surgery, you know? Joe says here, by the way, I don't know that there's one specific thing that we could say fix this and it won't happen again, but I do think that the delivery, the release point, and like how it's coming out of my hand right now that it's aggravated, I've got to try to make some kind of adjustment to not re-aggravate it without having months of rest time and let it calm down. I got to find a way to adjust. And that makes sense. If Joe knows that he has a high stress finish and he felt it, by the way, that arm on, I believe, the last slider. Yeah, he was feeling good in that last bullpen, or in that last his final start. It wasn't until he threw a slider at the end of his bullpen session before his next scheduled start that he felt the pain return. So it feels like a big problem there is the slider. So is it going to have to get to a point where just don't throw a slider? Is it this new delivery? Is that going to work? Does he feel, will he be able to pitch and not feel anything if he doesn't throw a slider? And can he be effective without a slider? If that's what it's going to take. And if that's what it's going to take, then that's what Joe's going to do, because he wants to be on the mound. He knows he's one of the leaders of this team. He knows that he's one of the frontline guys that the Padres are counting on. So he's going to try to find a way. And I'd rather have that in the year 2024. This isn't 2028. You know, coming off the most disappointing season in franchise history, I want Joe Musgrove to try to get back on the mound. Obviously, when he's healthy, get back on the mound, give it a go. If he has to have surgery at some point, okay. But I'd rather him try it when it's not like the Padres have a World Series or an NL pennant to look back on here. You know, we're trying to win right now, right? Musgrove, after doing that half-hour flexibility thing, said, I feel good, but it's hard when I haven't done the one thing that caused me pain. He plans to play catch for the first time either Wednesday in Philadelphia or Thursday in San Diego. I think within that first day, we'll be able to tell if we should continue progressing or if it needs a little more time. So that's really the update there. Again, late July is probably the earliest. After the All-Star break, definitely. I would be surprised. I would be really surprised if it's any time before the All-Star break. He needs time to ramp up. There could be setbacks. So, yeah, that's really the update. Remember, what he is dealing with: bone spur, there's bone bruise, triceps tendonitis he's dealt with. So there's a lot going on there. So got to be careful. Again, but though I'm not at the point where I'm like, no, just go get the surgery. No, not. And it's easy to say that as a fan too, you know. Having when you're the person that actually has to go in there and have a surgery on your arm when you're a pitcher, that's probably a lot harder to deal with and accept, like, okay, I got to go have the surgery, than a fan sitting on their couch saying, just go get the surgery. You know, we're not the ones that have to go get the surgery. And about the surgery, arthroscopic surgery, which typically requires a 6-week recovery process for a major league pitcher to return to action, Musgrove said, I haven't thought too much into that. I'm really kind of just looking forward to when we get home to being able to throw and just seeing where I'm at. So talks about being home. So probably throws Thursday then if he's not going to throw Wednesday in Philly. Believes the bigger impediment is the bone bruise, triceps tendonitis as well, not the bone spur in the elbow. He's had that for more than a year, according to Kevin. So that's the update there on Joe. The guys like Adam Major, Randy Vasquez, Matt Waldron, hopefully he continues to pitch well. Cease, hopefully he pitches better and doesn't give up the long ball as much. Michael King, he's had some really good outings this year. So going to have to stick with those guys. Darvish will probably return before. He might be returning actually this next homestand, the Milwaukee homestand. He will return before Musgrove will. That's what we know about that. All right. A break here, and then I will get to the chat. Check out Gaglione Bros' famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries on Friars Road. You can visit their website, gaglionebros.com, for their entire menu and enjoy their cheesesteaks and fries at Petco Park and Snapdragon Stadium as well. All right, a reminder of some of the other great partners of the show as well. Breaking Tea, they've got great Padres, Aztecs, Wave shirts and sweatshirts. Click the link in the description there. San Diego Wave, they almost got 3 points on the road in DC last night. If you were watching that, sucky ending. Sucky ending. Ended up getting a draw there, and so they're headed now to New Jersey to face off against Gotham midweek, and then they will be in Houston before returning home. Underdog Fantasy, as you see in the ticker if you're watching on YouTube, or you'll see in the description on the podcast platforms, you can claim a special pick. Use code Talking Friars to claim that special pick on Underdog Fantasy as well. First time, 50% deposit match up to $250. So make sure to take advantage of that. There's pick'ems every day for Padres games, and it's not just the Padres, but other MLB action, WNBA, NBA Finals might end, tomorrow? So there's a lot that's there. Soccer, golf, a lot. And then SeatGeek, same code, Talking Friars, $20 off your first order there. Use that to your advantage, trying to help you all out there. If you're going to go to a Padre game or another game, or I think they have concerts on there as well, feel free to use that. All right. A lot of people, almost 200 comments in the chat that I see. So I appreciate for all of the people that are passionate about the Padres in this chat. And let's get to it here. A. Visser says, I'm not sure why, but this team is a mess. Maybe sit Manny until after the All-Star break. Okay, well, I'm seeing that too. I've seen some people on social media say trade Manny. And it's like, all right, let's be realistic here. Manny, he's not going to get traded. Just let's throw that out the window. That's not happening. I think he has a no trade clause, and it's a long-term contract. No one's taking that contract. Okay? Mike Trout, I think that's a little bit different, but still, teams don't want to willingly take that contract either. Sit Manny until the All-Star break or after the All-Star break. What does that accomplish? There's a month till the All-Star break, right? What does that accomplish? So you're going to have Donovan Solano play every day, and then you're going to have David Peralta be the DH every day, and you think that that's what's going to light a fire under Manny, and that's going to be the good thing? I mean, whether you guys like it or not, Manny's going to play. Maybe they'll give him a couple days off, right? Have an off day, and then give him a day off after that, or give him the day game that day off, and then an off day. I think they just gave Campy 3 days off in a row recently, right? Had Higgy catch the first, I think, couple games, and they had the off day, obviously, before that New York series started, before they got swept here. So maybe that, but that's pretty much that. I mean, unless he goes on the IL, that's the only break, the real break that he's going to get. And he's not going to go on the IL right now. He will tell you, I can go run, I can jog, can't sprint, but I can jog. He's playing the field right now too. So they're not sitting him. That's not realistic. I see Dylan wants to join the show. So before I get back to the comments, what's up, Dylan?
What's up, Ben? How are you?
Good. How are you? Yeah, I got you.
Okay, awesome. Currently in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's very hot, but spending the weekend here, and I had some downtime to watch all three of these Padres games somehow with the packed weekend in full. It's not so. My thing is not so much about the game. We just got swept, and it kind of cancels out what we did against Oakland.
Yeah.
During the week. I was watching Schulte's postgame show, and I know it's hard being a manager, especially for a team that just got swept. A couple days after they just completed their first sweep. I don't know, and this is just a me thing. I don't know really if I like Schultz's attitude in terms of the positivity. Yeah, I know he's the type of manager that stays positive and wants to look at the positive side of things. But when you just got swept and you scored, 2 runs in the first 2 games, and then your pitching wasn't, I know he wants to stay positive. I don't know if I like Schilt in this specific situation. I guess the fact that he won't call the season a roller coaster still, even though the media is kind of pressuring him still, is just really, I don't know if I really like,
Yeah. No,
you know.
that is totally fair. Yeah. There's a lot of Padres fans that feel that same way. And yeah, spring training, seeing those media scrums, and I'd rather have someone, I guess, be positive, but the fan base as a whole would probably rather have someone be negative and share that same viewpoint that the fans have in those post-game pressers. Yeah. Now today I was watching it as well, and I believe multiple times he did say like, we're not making excuses here of getting swept. But I think it was Scan. It's kind of his job to start the press conference by trying to be positive, regardless of what happened. There's been times this year where I think Scan has asked the first question, and like, well, hey, at least they fought back, right? Is that a positive sign they fought back? And so Schilt, based off of what Scan says there, yeah, Schilt is going to respond positively. And so maybe it's not all Schilt's fault. Maybe it's the the phrasing of the question. But yeah, I mean, of course, not saying it's a roller coaster. The interactions that he's gotten into, I think Dennis Lynn in Colorado, and then Kevin back home. Yeah, it's all the media is trying to have Mike do is pretty much like admit that it has been a roller coaster and they're not playing good baseball as consistently as we want them to. I think as the fan base wants them to, as Kevin Acee probably wants them to, as a lot of people want them to. And I think Schilt sometimes he for some reason he just does not want to admit that. He will now it's I've noticed this where, like I said moments ago, he'll say no excuses. He loves to use the word alibi, but then later in the press conference, he will say something that will irritate the fan base, and we will latch onto that and be like, "Yep, see, he's still trying to spin things positively. We're not stupid." And that's where I think some fans, and maybe this is you as well, get pissed off. I totally understand that frustration. At the same time, what he says is not the end of the world. What's the end of the world? What matters the most is what they do on the field. And it just hasn't met our expectations this year so far.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not that I have a gripe with Mike Schilt. I actually really do like Schilte. I mean, he's shown fire. I mean, it's only been half a season, but he's shown more fire than I think Bob Melvin did all last season. And I liked Melvin.
And what Melvin, it's weird, right? I think sometimes after wins, we want Schilt, but after losses, when we get swept, we want Bob Melvin in that post game presser. Because Melvin,
Yeah,
he's definitely different than Schilt. Like you could tell when he was not happy with his team's performance. So go ahead.
yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna. This is my last thing, Ben. Thanks for having me on, but uh, I think the fan base know this. A lot of Padres fans do know this. All roads lead back to AJ Preller. He's had 4 managers in the past, I don't know, decade. Rob Barajas, Jace Tingler, Andy Green. Like, it's been a merry-go-round of managers. We've made the postseason once. I don't count 2020. I mean, really, all these big contracts and all these losing seasons and all these disappointments, it all points, all of the roads lead back to AJ Preller. And I know they're not going to fire him midseason. A lot of people are saying he might be gone if we don't make the playoffs, which as a fan, it's like, I do want to make the postseason. I really do. The NL is so mid this year that we actually do have a shot, even though we've been swept 4 times this year. And
Yeah.
we're 1 game under 500. A lot of other NL teams are 1 game under 500, but we have a chance. We're a lot more talented than these clubs in the NL wildcard race right now. But do we
Yeah.
really I mean, do we really want to make the postseason, as a maybe 83-win team? We might even make the postseason with the same record we had last year. Do we really want to make the postseason and have AJ Preller keep his job? I mean, he might gut the farm again. He might sell all of these pieces for a future just for, 83, 84-win team. And we might even get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, and Preller might keep his job. I don't know. It's just, we've dealt with this for 10 years. I just, AJ Preller is very, very good at keeping the city entertained. I mean, the Cease and Arise trades really hyped up. I mean, I was
Yeah.
really excited when they made those trades. But again, it's really just been suckiness and mediocrity this past decade, with the exception of 1 year. So,
Yeah.
yeah, pick your poison, I guess.
Yeah. No, Dylan, thank you so much, man. You made some great points there. Yeah. I mean, it's I feel like we were talking about this last year too, where we were like, because some thought that if the Padres were to miss the postseason, Preller would be gone. So it's like, do we really want to make the post? Sure, we want to make the postseason because who knows what happens. But if they miss the postseason, then we could get AJ Preller gone, which, and I'm saying we, meaning like Padre fans that want him gone, regardless of what happens, essentially. Like, they think it's been too long. You could get that if the Padres miss the postseason. If they make it, as a like Dylan said, 83-win team, whatever, and they don't go on a long run, what if they still keep AJ around and it's like, well, was it really worth it making the postseason? And we could sit back and say no because AJ's still here. Yeah, it's one of those things. I feel like this happens in a lot of sports. I mean, I think it happens in probably the NFL too, right? Like where, a head coach, maybe they go on a run late in the season, they make the playoffs, and some fan bases are like, no, I don't want that. Or maybe it's with a quarterback or something because, you guided him to the playoffs. Well, are you actually someone that's going to do that consistently, or did you just do it this season and then the owner or the GM emotionally reacts to that recency bias and they're like, no, it's fine, we're in the right direction. But there's positive things about AJ, like his ability to, I was going to say keep us entertained, but I mean, what matters the most is winning. His ability to restock the farm, right? Talent evaluation, he could be the best GM in the league at that, in the league, at talent evaluation. And he knows how to get stars on this team, how to acquire stars. It doesn't matter how many times fans or non-Padres fans want to say, oh, well, Padres farm system, he's not going to be able to make another trade, right? Seems like he always finds a way to do that. There's always prospects that other teams want that are Padres prospects. And who is in charge of that? AJ's at the top, right? They trade for Juan Soto and Josh Bell, give up all those guys. And it's like, oh, well, yep, farm system's taking a hit. Well, no, look what happened in the next season. And some of these moves that they continue to make. Oh, well, you make the Dylan Cease trade. Farm system depleted. Well, go out and get Luis Ariz. And they're being linked with Garrett Crochet, who the White Sox are obviously going to be asking a lot for, right? So he just has that ability. And I think Peter Seidler had this thought as well. Like, we're always, it seems like with Preller in this mode, we're always going to be relevant. We're always going to be in it. And Peter obviously was so optimistic about this team. So it was easy for him to sit there and be like, look at all this talent that AJ has put on this roster. It's not AJ, it was the players not performing. And while that's true, some of it is AJ's fault as well. And at what point, again, like Dylan said, 10 years, it's crazy to believe that it's, 10 years now, right? When is it enough? When is it, yeah, okay, Padres are relevant, got a lot of stars, and there's a lot of talent on the team, but what matters the most is the win-losses. What matters the most is postseason appearances. And how many consecutive postseason appearances does AJ Preller have? 0. How many consecutive postseason appearances does he have in the decade here? 0. He hasn't made it 2 years in a row. 2020, collapse in 2021. Made it in 2022, most disappointing season in 2023. And obviously, you can give him passes if you want for the rebuilding, right? But like 2015 didn't work out. And the clubhouse seemed like it was a mess then as well. So, yeah, like when is enough? That's obviously the question. If it's another year like this where he makes big trades with Arise and Cease and the farm system depletes again, maybe he acquires Crochet. Who knows? And the Padres, they missed the postseason. When is it going to be enough? There's a case to keep Preller because of the relevancy. If you're Eric Greupner, oh, well, fans sell at the ballpark all the time to go watch this AJ Preller team. Is it going to be the same with a new GM? But again, like how many seasons is AJ going to get to? Sure, it's exciting and we get excited, including myself, when he makes these moves. But at the end of the day, what Padres fans want is that World Series. And it's hard to win a World Series. I'm not acting like it's easy for a GM to go, luck is involved here, obviously. And there's injuries and a lot of stuff happens. But there's plenty of GMs out there that consistently make the postseason. They make the postseason more than AJ Preller does. With, it seems like, less talent than what AJ has. Seems like. So I guess how I'll end this before getting back to the chat is I value AJ Preller. There's worse GMs in the league, but does winning matter the most or not? Does making the playoffs matter the most or not to this ownership group? And that's a question to ask at the end of the year, obviously, right? Or does, hey, having a GM that brings in stars and brings in fans to pack the ballpark, is that what's most important? There's like the Tampa Bay Rays GM, right? Eric Neander, who you'd like to have the best of both worlds, right? Where you have a great Andrew Friedman, you have great attendance, and you have like the best GM in the game. But there's also Eric Neander with the Rays, where I know this year it's not been great, but most of the time it's a pretty darn talented baseball team, even though there's not a lot of stars, but like no one goes to the games. Where with the Padres, you could have the middle of that, where pretty good GM, you make the postseason consistently, which is what the Rays did, by the way. I know this year, again, it's not great, but they made it more consistently, definitely, than the Padres. And fans would show up because the stars are going to be here. If AJ Preller acquires no more stars, the stars will still be here because there are stars under contract for a long time, So fans will show up for this team if AJ Preller's not the GM still. I don't think that the Padres have to worry about that. So, again, I think we're going to have a lot of talks, a lot of discussions about this through this season. We'll have more at the end of the year, depending on the results, obviously. I'm not going to sit here and be a fan where I'm like, I want the Padres to miss the postseason so Preller can be gone. Because look what happened last year. Preller's not gone, And at the end of the day, I want to win. And so, yeah, I want this team to make the postseason. And if that means AJ Preller stays for another year, then I guess that's what that means. I'm not going to sit here and want AJ Preller to be gone more than I want the Padres to make the postseason, because you don't know what's going to happen if they make the postseason. That's where I stand on that. All right, back to the chat. Thank you again, Dylan, for joining. You made some good points there. Oh, did the U.S. Open? Did Rory choke on the U.S. Open? I know it's not Padres, but I'm seeing some tweets come up, and it seems like Rory choked. Dang. All right. Who would we compare? Probably the Dodgers. Like, super talented, but like doesn't get the job done when it matters the most. Because Rory hasn't won a major in a while. Anyway, back to the chat. Tyler says bad baseball. Or bad period baseball, period. Yeah. Get swept. if you want to shilt it, you could say, well, there were some positives, but not going to alibi it. No. Bad baseball. Yep. Can't win games, Daniel, if you can't hit. Or, hit your spots in the beginning of the game as well. Desert Punk says heartbreaker of a series. Devin says consistently inconsistent award goes to San Diego Padres. Woohoo. Jay says Manny Machado is the most selfish player in baseball. I mean, see, fan. You guys, I'm a fan too, so I can't say you guys. Fans, if you want to, if you're on that side of things, you can say that. I'm not going to go that far. I'm just going to say that Manny needs to be better, but I'm not going to say he's the most selfish baseball player. Because that's opinion. You can't measure that really, right? I agree, Devin. Too many meatballs, poor location from Dylan Cease recently. Yeah, John joined obviously earlier, but I think he put this in before I went to him. We're teetering on being in a really good position or a really bad one. Well, yeah. And I guess that's a positive is the Padres, they haven't gone on a really good run, like long run consistently, but they haven't gone on a terrible run either, where they're losing a lot of series in a row, or they're losing like 6-7 games in a row. I don't think they've done that this year. It's a 500 team. That's just what it is. I don't think they're going to get swept, Alexander. I don't think so. Because they're playing the Phillies. They're going to play up to the competition. I wouldn't be surprised to see them go win the series, to be honest. Let's see here. Steve asked, do you believe Cease might be dealing with an undisclosed injury? I'm not seeing that. I mean, the velocity's still there. Unless I missed him, like, walking around funny on the mound or, it seemed to me like, who is the Mets pitcher? Diekman today? It seemed like he may be dealing with something. I wasn't saying that was Cease. I just saw him being pissed off because he's missing spots. I hope that's not the case because, man, this rotation would be down bad if Cease isn't even able to physically be on the mound. See, these are I don't know if this is a troll or what, but Francisco says trade Tatis Machado sucks. Well, we forget pretty quickly because Tatis was just on like a 15, 16, 17 game hitting streak, right? And he's one of the best Padres on the team. So, yeah, trading him, that wouldn't be too smart. Yuki says, hey, Ben, shake it off. Who's next? The Phillies are next. And then it's back home to face the Brewers, I believe. By the way, that 19-game stretch that I tweeted about, and I think I talked about on the show, May 26th is when I put this out. The Padres' next 19 games, 3 against the Marlins, who were 19-35 at the time, 3 against the Royals, who were 34-20 at the time, 3 against the Angels, 20-33 at the time, 4 against the D-backs, 25-28 at the time, 3 against the A's, 22-33 at the time, and then 3 against these Mets, 22-30 at the time. I asked, what should their record be in these 19 games? In those 19 games, they ended up going 9-10. 9-10 in those 19 games. And they had one opponent that was a really good team. Marlins not. Angels not. D-backs not. A's not. Mets not. And they went 9-10. Got swept by the Angels, swept by the Mets. Imagine if they wouldn't have swept the A's. They would have been 9-11 if let's say they would have won the A's series. Excuse me. They would have been 8-11. Sorry. Maybe if I could do math right. They would have been 8-11 if they would have just won the A's series. So they didn't take advantage. They didn't. They took advantage, like in the A series, sure, but overall, this 19 game stretch, they did not take advantage of it. Losing record in these 19 games. Hopefully, it's not the 19 game stretch, this 19 games. Hopefully, that's not what will determine if they make the playoffs or not, but it could be. Very well could be. I mean, that's true, Dylan. Yeah. Dylan says they scored 2 runs the first 2 games. No, Merrill scored 2 in the first 2 games. That's true. But Merrill is on the Padres, so that's why I said the Padres. Alexander says, Ben, the wild card race is getting tighter. Is it? Last time I checked, there was like 8 teams that were in it. I don't know. I just checked the standings earlier in the show and seems still tight to me. It's June 16th. I'm not going to freak out about that too much. Really, if we look at the standings, that's where for finding silver linings, to be honest. Like, hey, at least we're in a wild card spot. Yeah, Devin Machado's frustrating a lot of us right now. Matsui did look. He has rebounded since those bad 2 outings. He has rebounded. So, props to him. What happened to Estrada? He did not. He got hit pretty hard. That's what happened. What was his line today? He got 1 out, gave up 4 earned runs, walked a guy, gave up a homer to none other than Luis Torrens, former Padre. Yep, Cease needs to be better. I don't believe in the San Diego curse. SD fan 44. Sorry. Schilt is just going to say, hey, we didn't give up and came up short. I'm so proud of these guys. He didn't go that wasn't his tone today in his presser. That wasn't. He mentioned, I think, some positives, if I remember correctly. But he also did say, like, there's no excuses for whatever that's worth. Steven says, one way or the other, the Padres will sooner than later have to eat the contracts of Machado, Bogarts, Darvish, and Musgrove, all that money down the toilet for years. I don't know if they're going to have to eat the Musgrove deal because that's not like 10 years. Darvish, maybe. I mean, they're paying him till what? He's 42. And then Machado and Bogarts, maybe. I'm not saying like in the next 3-4 years. I'm saying when they're 39, 40, 38, maybe. I guess it depends on injuries. How long are you going to have those guys be on the roster? If I had to bet one or the other, Machado, Bogarts, which one's going to get eaten, I would say Bogarts over Manny. I would think that Manny's going to live out the entire contract over Bogarts if I had to pick one. But yeah, Darvish, Bogarts, those two especially, I would not be surprised if they don't make it through those entire deals. Yeah, when Jack said that, I think he said about the Dodgers not really having run away with it yet. They're like, what, 7.5 games up? I know that's not like 20, but I mean, the way this Padres team's playing, they're not catching up to the Dodgers. I don't think we've ever thought once that the Padres, they could go win the NL West this year. I don't think we were thinking that. Retod says Manny sucks. That's kind of the problem. It's one of the problems. It's not just Manny. SD Fan 44 says Phillies Yankees seems like the World Series. I mean, yeah. But I feel like when we go into a postseason and we're like, yep, this is the World Series, it's never that. Someone gets upset. Someone loses. Maybe the AL picks right. If we pick the Astros, let's say in recent years, but then the Dodgers. Some people pick the Dodgers, and then, nope, they're out in the NLDS. They get swept. They lose in 4 games. So maybe that happens to the Phillies this year, and maybe it's the Braves that get in as the wild card, and then they go all the way. I don't know. Hopefully it's the Padres, but we'll see. Yeah, and those that are calling Manny fat and he needs to lose weight. I mean, come on, guys. You're gonna judge. You really think that Manny is overweight and he's not taking his diet seriously enough? I know he likes McDonald's and there's videos about that, and yeah, I know it's easy to clown on him right now like that, but come on. If you're actually being honest, you can't realistically say that Manny, oh, he's eating a bunch of junk food and he's not taking it seriously. Come on. I'm pretty sure when his trainer came on, he said that Manny has a personal chef for him. Like, yeah, come on. Steven says never sign a pitcher more than 3 years at a time. If they leave, let them go and next man up. Well, here's the thing. Musgrove, 5 years at what it was with that extension. Come on. We were all happy about that. That was a team-friendly deal. I think when you get into a problem, it's like 7, 8 years. Definitely Yamamoto, that deal. Yikes. He's on the IL now. So I agree, like long-term, but if you want an ace, you're not going to be able to just sign the ace for 3 years. He's going to go to another team. That's how it is. So now, if the Padres develop aces, then not a problem. But if you want a top frontline guy, you're probably not. Now, I know like Snell, right? Some of these deals, it's 1 year. They didn't get as much as they wanted. But the Garrett Coles of the world, you're not getting them for 3 years. It's not happening. Because there's another team that will be willing to give them more than what you'll be willing to give. Like, of course, in an ideal world, it's like 1 year deals for everybody, and you get as much. You can earn up to $30 million. You can earn up to $50 million if you have the year of, the century, but you have to earn the money that you get. Ideal world, right? Like 1 year for every player, regardless of if they have a track record or not, and every player gets a base salary more than like the average American, but like base salary of, I don't know, 600,000, whatever it is, a million, whatever. And then you can earn based on incentives after that. Like Profar, right? Incentives. There's incentives in a lot of other guys' contracts. It's not just Profar. In the ideal world, yeah, but that's not what this is. There's a players association. These players, they have track records. They bring in a lot of money for you. They attract eyeballs, and they get long-term contracts. And owners make a lot of money off of this league and other leagues, and that's just not how it works. Are we facing a left-handed starter tomorrow? I haven't even looked. Please don't say we have to face Zach Wheeler. We probably actually light him up, to be honest, based on this Padres team. Okay, Sanchez. We got Vasquez tomorrow. That's at 3:40. Tuesdays at 3:40. King again. Oh, we got to face Nola. Great. And then Wednesday. Oh, well, we have to face Suarez, who has a 1.77 ERA. We got Waldron on Wednesday. That's a 10:05 a.m. Local time first pitch. So we got to face Suarez, Nola, and Sanchez. I guess that's not as bad as Wheeler, Nola, and Suarez, but yikes. We'll see. Yep, Phillies activating Trey Turner tomorrow, of course. Right in time. Just scrolling through the chat here. Some of these comments, it's not even worth reading. Again, people on Manny with his weight, like, come on. Weren't people making fun of Crony with his weight in spring training with some of the pictures that came out, and then he was like the Padres' second best hitter? Good point. Look at the last couple years. Nobody thought the Snakes would go, and they did. It's baseball. Anything can happen. I mean, the Phillies, the Nationals. Did the Braves win the division, or were they a wild card? I forget. But it's happened a lot where the division winners, they get knocked out in the DS, or the Dodgers. They lose. Yeah, Dodgers lose in the DS. Mets over 100 wins in 22. Padres beat them. Padres beat the Dodgers. D-backs sweep the Dodgers. It happens. I mean, I think a lot of people thought the Phillies were going to beat the D-backs last year in the CS. And look what happened. The D-backs won that. So, I mean, it can't happen. Again, that's why I say so many times, I just care about making the playoffs. Get in. Get in. And, right now, me, other Padres fans, we're just reacting in the moment. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, let's just wait. And I'm not going to give any reaction to the games. I'll still have a reaction to the games, and I still get pissed off when things aren't going well. I'll be happy when things are going well, even though it's 1 of 162 or 3 of 162 or 5 or whatever the stretch is. But really, what matters the most is them making the postseason. And so, really, what happens between now and then, we'll talk about it. But what we're going to remember is the end result, obviously, of the year. Are we going to remember every detail of what happened in this sweep? No. Not saying you can't be pissed off right now. Of course. It's irritating. It's frustrating. But let's remember where the Padres stand. Let's remember the other teams in the National League. Let's remember past years that have shown that wild card teams with talent, like the Padres have, can go on a run and go do something special. And so that's the hope that me and maybe some others, maybe you guys aren't, but I'm trying to hold on to that. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for watching episode 607, Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden signing off. Have a great rest of your night, and talk to y'all later. See ya.